Before we move on to the next part of the program, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of one of the representatives of the Department of Education, Mr. Nopa Raki. He's the Superintendent for Students Teacher Education Division. Thank you for being with us today. Okay, so next up for Pool B, our schools are Garu Secondary School against the Quikila Secondary School. As I read out their names, please make them welcome. For Garu Secondary School, David Vanuaru, Alison Geno, Grace Kune, and Samuel Molina. Please welcome the Garu Secondary School. Quikila Secondary School, the participants are Joshua Kaile, Russell Navuru, Michael Oike, and Luana Duri. Please welcome the Quikila Secondary School students. Their topic for debate is Parliament must have 22 seats for women. Garu Secondary School is going for the topic, and Quikila Secondary School is going against the topic. Now I'd like to call upon the first speaker of the affirmative side.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson, adjudicators, timekeeper, and our lovely audience. We, the affirmative team, are going for Parliament should have 22 seats for women. Before I move on, I would like to stress upon the topic. Parliament should have 22 seats for women in Parliament. Why? Purposely, it will aim to improve equal participation and increase representation of women in Parliament. The 22 seats will add to the 109 electorates, giving the total of 131 members in Parliament. PNG will have 2 MP seats for 22 provinces. Original seats can be contested by both men and women. Only women can contest the reserved 22 seats. Now, we the government are of the view that you will not agree anymore with us that the concept of women politics is not altogether foreign or strange, and that the timing is now right for PNG to search out our backyards of capable female flock to assist the male counterparts in the nation politics of our time and age. We the government put to you that women in politics never was and is and will be a new concept. As the government, we strongly believe that 22 seats will bring in stability. It will bring prosperity. For in every family, there is a mother. Or without a mother, there is a father. But with a father, he will not look after a family. He will not cater for the needs and wants for you as a child, So I believe, we the government believe that having 22 seats in Parliament will help establish a body that is a family. The Parliament is represented, it looks after us, we the children of Papua New Guinea. We are the children, and for that we must have a father and a mother. The 22 seats will create that to add on, I would like to use this opportunity that is taken from the Bible in Matthew chapter 18 to 16. And I quote, "But if he will not listen, take one or two others along, that every matter may be established to the testimony of the 2 or 3 witnesses, in which my fellow colleagues will further elaborate." So we, the affirmative team, strongly believe that 22 seats reserved for women in parliament should be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, first speaker of the affirmative side. Now I'd like to call upon the first speaker of the opposing team.
Thank you, Chairperson, adjudicators, and seriously curious audience. All right, as the name itself suggests, we are the opposition, so we are going to oppose the topic that is 22 seats should not be reserved for women in the parliament. Before I rebut on the first speaker of the government, let me introduce myself and my fellow colleagues. I am Joshua Kaile. I'm going to stress on the negative impacts on the political sphere of our government. And then, followed by my second speaker, Mr. Russell Navuru, who's going to stress on and emphasize the negative impacts of this bill on the economic sector of our government. And then, followed by the third speaker, that is Mr. Michael Waike, who's going to emphasize the negative effects of this bill on the social sphere of our lives. And then, finally, extremely captivating, motivating speaker of all times, our time, that is Mr. Luana Duri, who's going to wrap up all the points. All right, that takes me to back to the point. The first, I'll base my rebuttal on the first speaker of the government. Excuse me. All right, he stated that this proposed bill is going to improve the women participation in the parliament. I tell you, according to the newspaper stated, that was published on the May 27, the National. In the article it states, even the presence of women will not guarantee that this country will overcome our social woes and corruption. First of all, to my point, before I go on to a point, the other thing the government mentioned was, this was never done, and it is a new concept. I tell you, it was already done. I can take you down the line. Dame Carol Kidu, who is already a politician as a woman, and then Janet Sape, who was one of the motivating women in the previous election, and so on. You can name them. So this is not a new concept. It is already, women are given all the opportunity. They can stand. Therefore, our topic here is that the parliament must not reserve 22 seats for women. Back to my point, when you see the system of this government, it is a democratic system. In general terms, it is defined. In general terms, it is defined that it is the system in which the people run the government through elected representatives, not reserves. And I believe all you are agreeing with me. When the government is doing it, they are actually dramatizing some other systems, maybe dictatorship, communism, or whatsoever, by reserving these 22 seats. We are a democratic nation. We should at least, and we must, hear the voice of all the citizens from the grassroots to the top sorts. They must play a part in this scene making. So when we see democracy, it is Generally, majority rules, not the minority in the parliament, that's the government. The next point. According to an international principle of sovereignty, the national interest will always, I re-emphasize, the national interest will always supersede international law and orders. Therefore, international law and orders, this means that the national interest is the first and foremost thing we should pay attention to, rather than impressing the international bodies such as United Nations through achieving Millennium Development Goals stated in the Vision 2050. So, to provide resolutions, the government should revisit the system of election and improve it in a way that women are not harassed, women are not threatened in the election. Next, women who have come third or second in the election process, they should be given at least opportunity to play a part in decision making through giving them advisory roles in department heads and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, first speaker of the opposition side. Now I'd like to call upon the second speaker of the affirmative team.
Good evening, Chairperson, adjudicators, timekeepers, audience, and my fellow debaters. I am Alison Gano, and I will be emphasizing on the social and economic advantages on the issue. Parliament should reserve 22 seats for women in Parliament. Yes, I strongly believe and support this statement because I believe that women can be a form for democratic change. Before I proceed, I would like to rebut on what the first speaker of the opposition has stated, that women have contested elections. Yes, they have contested elections, but women are not given all the opportunity from past elections. Women have contested elections, but because of the cultural mindset of Papua New Guinea, they do not succeed in elections. And moving on, democracy requires parity of the representation, and there cannot be true democracy if women are virtually excluded from positions of power. Women comprise of half of the world's population and carry out 2/3 of the world's work. And I tell you, that is quite a lot for a race that is considered the weaker. Although in every country today, women are poorly represented in positions of public and political power, the increase in female employment has also accounted for a big chunk of global growth in recent decades. Women are becoming more important in the global marketplace, not just as workers, but also as consumers, managers, entrepreneurs, and investors. Nevertheless, most working women are still responsible for bulk of chores in their homes. Therefore, having more women in Parliament can help social issues like child morality, improve child nutrition and health, and enhance overall development progress. For women have that moral instinct that drives them to care and protect the well-being of children. Recent studies in the US have shown that female legislators tend to focus on moral issues more than male legislators. I positively believe that this is how we will transform politics. We cannot just depend on men to put women's rights, childcare, women's health, reproductive rights, sexual harassment, employment, benefits, discriminatory laws, and practices against women. The approval of these 22 reserved seats will create a balanced participation in politics by both men and women, producing different values ideas, and styles of behavior suited to a fairer and more balanced country for both male and female. Women comprise half the potential, talent, and ability of humanity, and their underrepresentation in decision-making in this country is a loss for this society as a whole. I see women as open-hearted and caring beings. They have the heart for people. For example, looking at prominent NGO organizations led by women, Marie Stopes PNG, Friends Foundation led by Tessie Soy, and not forgetting BPW, the Business and Professional Women of Papua New Guinea, founded by our very own and only female woman in parliament, that support and sponsor female students, disadvantaged students, which the government cannot support. These women, apart from their professional and family lives, they still have the time and effort to raise funds to cater for these students. And that is the kind of attitude we need in the House of Parliament today that has lacked for over 35 years or even so. Do you agree with me? In conclusion, the entry of women in politics therefore broadens and redefines the political agenda and to transform the very nature of politics we have at present. Therefore, I, as the second speaker, firmly stand with my team that surely the 22 reserved seats for women in parliament should be granted. And to leave you all with this statement, women not the weaker, men not the stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, second speaker of the affirmative side. Now I'd like to call upon the second speaker of the opposition.
Thank you, Chairperson, the adjudicators, and the wonderful audience. I, as my first speaker has mentioned, am Russell Navru. I will be speaking on the economical aspects of the bill. Before I continue on to my points, I would just like to rebut on the second speaker of the government's comment. She was classifying us with the United States of America. But what you must understand is that we, Papua New Guineans, are not the same as America. We are different from Americans, and we have a totally different mindset from them. To carry on with my points, our current parliamentarians in the government are paid over 70 to 80,000 Papua New Guinean taxpayers kina per year. This covers their allowances for health, their travel allowances, housing allowances, just to name a few. Why must we, Papua New Guineans, continue to pay more to benefit the government? The government, are you not receiving enough money? The issue of the 22 seats, in addition to the already existing 109, plus the members of HELA, would increase their income by a lump sum. According to an independent research by the opposition leader, Honorable Mekere Morauta, found out that the increase in the seats would cost Papua New Guinean taxpayers an estimated amount of 100 million Papua New Guinean kina. In case you might think that I might be joking or making fun about these amounts, I'll bring you to, if you didn't know, there was another bill which was passed in Parliament. The second bill was for an additional 5 ministers, 5 more ministers to be added onto the already existing 26 cabinet ministers, to give us a total amount of 31 cabinet ministers. In a statement by the deputy opposition leader, Honorable Bart Philemon, he stated his statement and gave estimated amounts on how much the country would take out from taxpayers, that would be you and me, and give to our parliamentarians. The amounts are as follows. For the 26 ministers, our current 26 ministers, they receive a total estimated amount of 15 million Papua New Guinean kina taken out from your tax. To add another 5 more ministers would cost the country an added 3 million. This would give a total estimated amount of 18 million. The Prime Minister's Department and the Deputy Prime Minister's Department has not been mentioned. I will get to that. The PM's office takes a whopping 3 million Papua New Guinean kina from taxpayers, while the Deputy Prime Minister's Department takes a total of 1 million Papua New Guinean kina. All in all, it gives us a total amount of 22 million. If this is just for an addition of 5 ministers, just 5, think of the impact it will cause to put a total of 22 members back into parliament, on top of the additional 109. The money which our parliamentarians are getting should be given to us, the people of Papua New Guinea, so that we can benefit from services which should be provided by them. Services such as better health centers, health services. More roads should be sealed. And they should build more institutions for graduating grade 12 students. Every year, 13,000 graduate, only 4,000 make it into universities. What about the rest? But the most depressing factor is that the increase in inflation this would cause. Inflation, in terms of economics, it is the general rise. It is the general rise in price for goods and services. Because we will have to meet the needs of these parliamentarians, we will have to pay more in order to tax. Therefore, giving us a burden, an extra burden. Therefore, we, the opposition, strongly disagree with this and stand our ground, saying that women in parliament should not be given an addition of or to be reserved seats in parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, second speaker of the opposing team. Now I'd like to call upon the third speaker of the affirmative side.
Good afternoon, judicators, chair lady, timekeepers, and of course the audience. My name is Grace Kune, and I'm the third speaker for the government team going for the topic, 22 seats should be reserved in Parliament for women. Before I proceed, I would like to rebut on what the second speaker of the opposition team has stated. We are different from Americans. Yes, different in nationality, but in what ways? If you say race, we are same in race. As you can see, like I mentioned, like my colleague has mentioned, we have different mindsets. They do not have a culture. We do have a culture. And if we have a culture, these cultures must not affect us in our decision making, whether it be political or socially. As the third speaker of the government side, I'll be talking about the cultural and political aspects. Papua New Guinea is a unique country, meaning to say that there are 800 plus different languages and diverse cultures. In most cultures make up who we are. Cultures make up who we are. Most cultures tend to believe and say that women must be submissive to men. These cultures and beliefs must not affect our decision making, especially in parliament. Women have the right to be heard. This is the 21st century. Cultures are cultures. We can keep our cultures. See, for example, Japan is a diverse cultural country. It preserves its culture for over 200 years and still is a well-known country, developed both economically, politically, is dominant in trade, and so on. For instance, if you take, for example, a woman and a male, they all qualify for the same job, they have the same certificate, they have the same knowledge. Okay, 80% of our population live in rural areas. And what do they practice? They practice our cultures. This mindset comes into place now. Our beliefs, cultural beliefs, that women must always be submissive to men. They go there, they campaign, and guess what? They'll be like, no, that's the most common reply you get. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? I repeat. That's good. That's the most common knowledge we get, or reply we get from people. Now, if you continue to practice that, do you think a country will develop? Do you think a country will develop? No, a country will definitely go down. Politically, women can contribute to decision-making processes. Take, for example, these 22 women will help the male counterparts in making good decisions. Decisions that are not for greed, not for power, not for fame, but decisions that will benefit you and I as Papua New Guineans. Women have the right to be represented because, like mentioned, Papua New Guinea is a democratic country, and anyone, regardless of age or in particular gender, have the freedom to speak their mind. Women can be a positive form of democratic change. In saying this, that for the past 35 years, men have dominated parliament. Is that true? Have men dominated parliament? So far, how many female representatives have you seen? One. Do you think that's fair? For guys, you might think, oh yeah, that's good. But as for looking at the bigger picture, as a country as a whole, no improvement has been done so far. There's something need to be done about it. Women are considerate and they tend to think of themselves before others. Women are capable of earning a place in society and should be given the opportunity. Having their seat in parliament will prove they are competent and decent caliber and hold the fate of the nation in their hands. As life is not without a share of virtuous women, so life is not only physical but spiritual too. Therefore, we again draw strength from our arguments from the Holy Bible that speaks of a virtuous woman. We quote from the book of Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 to 28. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far more than rubies. She is like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. She preserveth her merchants in good, and candle goes out by night. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands for the needy. For example, in the world today, leaders like Hillary Clinton, US Secretary of State, Margaret Thatcher of England, Benazir Bhutto of Pakistan, Quentin Braz of Australia, these countries have shown and given an impression to us that yes, women have the right, and therefore they have proven themselves by doing great changes in parliament. If we can adapt to the 21st century, why cannot we adapt this and try to move forward? Before I conclude, this declaration was mentioned in 2050 Vision, page 1, by the Constitutional Planning Committee report 1974, chapter 2, section 4 reads, we leaders and people must know where we want to go before we decide how we should get there. Before a driver starts a car, he should first decide on his destination. Otherwise, his driving will be without purpose, and he will achieve nothing. We Papua New Guineans are now in the driving seat. I repeat, we Papua New Guineans are now in the driving seat. The road which we should follow ought to be marked out so that all will know where we're headed. Therefore, in conclusion, I say that 22 seats must be reserved for women in parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, third speaker of the affirmative side. And I'd like to call upon the third speaker of the opposing team.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairperson, adjudicators, and the general viewers, and Papua New Guinea as a whole. According to what we are trying to argue upon is 22 reserved seats should not be legalized for women. But firstly, I would like to rebut on what the second speaker, the third speaker of the opposition, the government has stated. Okay, you have stated that women are given, should be given equal rights in parliament. According to the opposition's point of view, we think that the system of reserving 22 seats is not allowing the we are not trying to stop women from being heard, but the system adopted is total gender inequality. To my points, I would like to emphasize on fairness. Fairness in parliament, fairness from the grassroots level is very important. Reserving 22 seats is total demotion. You are not promoting the women. We as Papua New Guineans must empower our women. Thirdly, or to my next point, this is a slap across the face of women who have tried their best to be there, to share hard work, sweating their guts day and night to be in parliament. Such leaders as Carol Kiru and Dame Josephine Abijah. The solution to this problem is we, as the opposition, have decided or are suggesting that each party in the parliament should at least reserve 50% of the parties, 50% of the party should be made up of women and 50% of the party should be made up of men. Therefore, according to the MDG, which means Millennium Development Goals, is the government trying to impress the UNO? Is it trying to stop corruption? Or is it trying to empower the women? That is a question for you all to answer. If the women are to be elected into the parliament, they will definitely be in the government side. Why? Because they will be as deputies, or they will be beside the governors of each province. So the government is actually creating numbers to pass bills and acts. Who is the government serving? Is the government serving the needs of the people, or is it serving its own interests? We therefore disagree and would like to stand on our grounds that reserving 22 seats is not gender equality. Gender equality means men and women are equal. Therefore, men and women must compete on equal footing. We, the opposition, therefore disagree that 22 seats should be reserved for women in parliament. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Third speaker of the opposition side. For your information, the two schools debating now in this Pool B for the school debate competition are Garrow Secondary School and Quikila Secondary School. Their topic is Parliament must have 22 seats for women. Garrow Secondary School is going for the topic, and Quikila Secondary School is going against the topic. Now I'd like to call upon the fourth and final speaker of the affirmative side.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, adjudicators, timekeepers, fellow debaters, and the audience. My name is David Vanuwaru, and I am the fourth speaker representing the government for the topic, Women should be given 22 seats within the Parliament. Before I continue with my points, I would like to rebut on what the third speaker has said. You went on to talk about gender inequality. You said the 22 seats are not promoting women, that PNG must empower their women, and that 50% of our parliamentary seats should be given equally to each sex. I give this question to you. What do you think these 22 seats are there for? These 22 seats are there to give a foothold to achieve that 50% each, and women can finally be given an equal voice within Parliament. Also, you asked this question, who is the government serving? Men and women should have equal footing, and they should be given equal opportunity to participate within our elections. I tell you this, women have been competing with men. It is just the mindsets, our culture, and our political roles within this country. Our men do not believe in our women. Our politicians, they do not believe in women. I'll go back to what the first speaker said. He said that women are given the opportunity to stand. Who did they stand with? Who stands with them? No one. No Papua New Guinean man will dare stand with a woman because his culture contradicts that, and that is not fair. He also talked about women participation. He quoted an article saying that women presence can't guarantee the demolition of corruption. That is not all that these 22 seats are there for. What article did you read that said that these 22 seats are there just to get rid of corruption? They are there to help PNG as a whole, to help every single Papua New Guinean from infant up to elder, every single person. And as for the second speaker, well, we'll find out as we go along. Ask yourself this question, what will happen if these 22 seats are put in place? This question is being asked by our taxpayers. People who go work, they are the breadwinners of our society. They go and feed their families. This issue is worrying them, these 22 seats. They're worrying about the extra salary that we will be paying to these 22 women MPs. They worry that if these 22 seats are put in place, there will be extra money taken out from taxpayers' pockets, put into these women, and men, our taxpayers will be emptying their pockets further. Now an MP on average earns about 50,000 kina. This is on average, mind you. That is equal in total, given that these 22 seats will be acquiring our salaries, our MP salaries. It will be over 1 million kina in total for just these 22 seats. Okay, I ask this question to you. Is 1 million kina a lot? It is. Is it a lot? If you agree, if you say that this 1 million kina is a lot, I tell you, you're not looking at the big picture. You are not thinking. Our PNG economy in relation to our gross national produce, our GNP. GNP refers to our total goods and services that this country produces. That alone is worth 5.5 billion US dollars. 5.5 billion US dollars. Convert that into PNG kina. It will be worth roughly around 20 billion kina. Compare that 1 million we'll be paying to these women MPs to that 20 billion kina. That is 0.005% of that total. And this is just our gross national produce. Compare the rest of the economy into the equation. What then? 0.000005? That 1 million kina is a tiny, minuscule amount. And also one needs to take into account the improved value of governance that these women will be bringing into the parliament. For it is basic economics that states, improved production will result in improved input. And when there is improved input, our people will be better off, and they will have better standards of living. The same principle applies to our government and to our people. Furthermore, in an article extracted from The Economist dated April 15, 2006, titled A Guide to Womenomics, it was stated that women make over 80% of our consumers' buying decisions, from healthcare, homes to furniture. Just imagine, 80% of our buying decisions. A question to you guys, can you budget over 80% of our buying decisions? Me personally, I can't even budget 2 kina. Furthermore, calculations indicate that the extra women put into the workforce not only adds to our GDP more than the jobs that men have, but also supplies input into our economy more than our investment and our increased productivity. Investment, my friends, it is a big factor that affects our economy. Increased production itself is a really huge factor that affects our economy. Now these women themselves are becoming more powerful than these factors which affect our economy. They are becoming a factor unto themselves. Also, if you look at it on a global scale, over the past decade, the increased employment of women in developed economies has contributed more to our global growth than the country of China. China, C-H-I-N-A, China, with a population of 1 billion people. Our world population, mind you, is 6 billion people. This country is a key supplier in our world markets on all levels. Yet these women are beating an entire country. How? I leave that question to you. Furthermore, in a report by Diane Corrare of the University of Victoria titled Gender and Perceptions of Political Power in PNG, it was stated that all women have different experiences, but they do share one thing in common. They are the most disadvantaged group in PNG society. Now women, ask yourself, are you disadvantaged in our society? If you say no, I tell you, open your eyes. Look around you. Now, a common excuse for why women are considered not equal to men, the common excuse, the key excuse given by every single man is custom. Now custom, this very same excuse is being used by political elites to further male dominance within a government. A similar incident happened in 1980 when the government was in heated debate about whether or not to make wife bashing a criminal offense under the criminal code. Now a good number of these male MPs mind you, a good number of them denounced this bill, saying that they had paid bride price and they had the right to bash their wives. They had the right. Can you believe your MPs, the men in seats of power, men making your decisions for you, saying that they have the right to do such a thing? A question to all you women, is it right for women to be bashed? No. Of course not. And I would like to further imply this. I would like to further imply this with a question. Do you think that it is fair for a woman to be degraded in any way, shape, or form? Is it fair? Of course not, it is. It goes against basic human rights. Another question to women. I would like to ask women, do you enjoy being put down? Do you enjoy being made to be inferior? Do you enjoy being made subclass? Do you enjoy being made second rate? No, of course not. But this very thing which happened in our parliament in 1980 is a very good example of selfishness and bias within a male-dominant government which will not hear anything from a woman. And I would like to challenge everyone sitting in this building, our adjudicators, our speaker, our cameraman, the people looking at my face in your TV. If you're looking at my face right now, I give you this challenge. Go tell every single woman in Papua New Guinea, you are not inferior, you are not subclass, you are not second rate. You can do whatever it is men can do. But you have the power to do so. And these 22 seats will finally make it possible for the voice of PNG to finally be heard in its wholeness, in its entirety, and we can finally be making faster progress than we have made in the last 30 years. Some may say that. Won't women lose their cultural and social value? Will they? If you think that women will lose their cultural and social value, I tell you this, welcome to the light. Open your eyes. Women are already losing their cultural and social value. They have already lost it. And I say this because our PNG custom is not the same as it was hundreds of years ago in ancestral times. In ancestral times, women were held in high esteem by every single member of the society. They were respected. They were providers. They were carers. Our chiefs, our warriors, men who could take on 100 men at once. These men respected our women. I would now like to sum it up. This, actually, what happened 100 years ago, that culture, that is a testament to this statement. Behind every great man, there is always a strong woman. And today, that is not the case. But then some may ask, aren't we losing part of our culture? Look at Japan. It is one of the most super advanced countries in the world. In industry, in manufacturing, in science, in robotics, in astronomy, etc., etc., etc. It is a prime supplier to the world market on all levels, the same as China. But it still manages to preserve traditions which are 2,000 years old and over. Mind you, I'm not comparing a developed nation to our developing nation. I am not comparing economy to economy. I'm not comparing government to government. I am merely comparing the resolve to preserve your own culture. These women in parliament, 22 seats does not mean we will have to forget our culture. If you really love your culture, you will preserve it no matter what. The world is now a global village. There is no more east, there is no more west, there is no more north, there is no more south. There is only undeveloped, developing, and developed. Raise your hands if you think this country is a developed country. No one? How about underdeveloped? Are we underdeveloped? How about developing? Raise your hands. Everyone. We're a developing country, obviously. But if you are against the topic, if you are against me, the government, like my opposition, then you are against progress. You are against this country progressing. And if you share the same sentiment as the opposition, then probably you should go back to your village, you should walk around half naked and cruise around your area and stand like this. And if you say, it's okay, I can do that, it's part of my culture. Yes, it is part of your culture. It is part of our cultural identity. But if you say that, you are in extension saying that the PNG consciousness, our Papua New Guinean consciousness has not progressed since independence. And that PNG people are in extension chronicles, which we aren't. And with that, I am sure that I have convinced you. I believe in my heart and soul that I have convinced all you women, as well as some of you men, as well as your adjudicators, the timekeeper, the speaker, and the people watching at home, that women should be given 22 seats within Parliament. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was the final speaker of the affirmative side. Now I'd like to call upon the final speaker of the opposition side.
Thank you, Chairperson, the adjudicators, the smiling audience in the room, and in and around Papua New Guinea. As our first speaker said, I'm the last speaker. My name is Luana Duri. I'll be summing up the topic on political aspects, economic and social. But before I proceed, let me do some rebuttals. My first rebut goes to the first speaker of the government. The first speaker said, when we have women in the parliament, there will be prosperity in the country. when we have women in the parliament, there will be prosperity in the country. Not knowing that these seats are reserved seats. They are against what democracy is. Democracy is a majority rule, not a minority rule. My culture and our culture as Papua New Guineans is our culture. Because of our culture, people, white people, are coming in. There are so many things happening in our country. It's because of our culture. And our culture, through culture, we will beat these people. And we cannot beat any other countries through anything. It is through culture. And in culture, it says women must only submit, and that is what we stand for. Women must only submit. That is what culture is. That is what my identity is. The second speaker said, women are totally excluded. As you can see today, we are women engineers. We are women teachers. We are women even in the parliament. We are women lawyers, doctors. Why are you saying we have excluded women? There's no exclusion of women in Papua New Guinea. But what is going against is the system that is going against the reserved seats you have in the parliament. The third speaker has mentioned something about Proverbs. I don't know, Proverbs chapter, I don't know. But let me take you back in Old Testament days, in the days of Old Testament, when God created Evan and Adam. Even Adam. Even Adam. When Adam was easily convinced by Satan. Satan said, take the apple. When Eve came in, she was convinced by Satan. Appoint a woman and she'll be manipulated by this own whole-time parliamentarians in the parliament. She'll become the puppets. She'll become the puppet. The fourth speaker said, what will happen? He asked a question, what will happen when we have women in the parliament? Well, one of my answers to you is that corruption will go to bed to west. Go from bed to west. Corruption. And corruption is the byproduct of some uneducated, semi-educated MPs in the parliament who will vote for such unjustified bills. Now, 22 reserved seats for women is threatening democracy. It is a threat to democracy. And democracy, democratic system of government, the pillar of democratic system of government is free election. Women must go through what men are going through. Then they can be recognized rather than taking them straight from down there and up there. We don't know what type of woman she is. She may be. Where will we get the funds to cater for this extra 22 seats? Is it from the taxpayers, or is it from the donors that government must have arranged there somewhere? What portfolio are these 22 reserve seats going to represent? Are they only for government? Are they only for opposition? Or are they backbenchers? They go and watch. They go and watch these parliamentarians debating and discussing. Democracy is being compromised to achieve gender equality. Government is too desperate to achieve gender equality. We are just 34 years old. 34 years old, and it's too desperate to achieve gender equality, and it is compromising democracy. And democracy is the majority rule, not a minority rule. What will be the criteria for these 22 reserve seats? And how will I know that this criteria reflects as a quality and majority of people's views? Rather than appointing them, let us empower them. Empower them through education, through employment, in all sectors, so that they can have a chance of decision making. Put them in advisory roles. If we are appointing them, if we are reserving 22 seats for them, we are saying women are incapable to challenge what men is going through. Women are vulnerable, that's what we are saying. Women are weaklings who are not able to those who can be. To summarize, politically, democracy is a majority rule, not a minority rule. Economically, inflation is inevitable. Socially, women must go through what men are going through, so that they can be recognized. I'm up there, Mount Maria. Those of us sitting down here have been to Quikila. Those beetle nuts there, those mustards have been there after people walk. Stop being discursive. Stick to one subject and meet the basic interest of Papua New Guineans, rather than creating unjustified bills. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the final speaker of the opposition side. Please, a round of applause to the two teams. Now we're going to have our 5 minutes question time again. Any questions from the audience? Yes, a young man from the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question goes to the government. The third speaker of the government side has mentioned so far that if more women are in parliament, the country will develop and the rate of the corruption will decrease. Indirectly, you are stating that only males are practicing corruption, not female. My question is, what if all the women elected or chosen into the parliament does not practice corruption? Do you think the country will develop? And explain what the difference between a corrupted male leader and a corrupted female leader. Thank you.
Can you rephrase the Can you rephrase your question again, please? Yeah. Can you come again with your question, please?
My question is, what if all the women elected or chosen into the parliament does not practice corruption? Do you think the country will develop? And explain what the difference between a corrupted male and a corrupted female leader.
Can you give examples? Oh, okay. Firstly, I'd like to make a correction on that. I never mentioned anything about corruption, but since you mentioned it, I might as well speak. Okay. Like mentioned, how many female leaders do we have in parliament? I ask again. 1. Okay. So far, have you heard anything on air misusing funds? Louder, please. I can't hear. Okay. With male, have you heard some of them taking part in corruption? Okay. If you say no, let me remind you. On Friday, 4th, June 2010, there was on the front page. Did you guys see it? Okay, it stated 3 politicians involved in corruption. This is the basic thing that we're looking at. Guys, take part in corruption activities. We haven't tried leaders yet, women leaders yet, so we don't know we don't know that they are capable of doing that unless we try and see the potential. These 22 seats, let me make it clear that these 22 seats will be reserved for women in parliament. Okay, with the other seats, they'll be contested by both male and female. These 22 seats are specifically preserved for women, only women to compete against each other in order to take that seat. So, to your question, we haven't seen any woman corrupted yet in parliament. For like Dame Carol Kidu, she hasn't taken part in any corruptional activities so far from my view. So I hope that this answers your question. We need to try women out before we can make conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question, please. Okay, one young man from the back.
My question is going directly to the fourth speaker of the opposition. My question is going directly to the fourth speaker of the opposition. Why is it that you're referring to women leaders as puppets when they are women capable of really accomplishing what a man can do in this country?
Okay. Why we are saying that women lead us as puppets? That's what your question is. Well, if you go through hardships, through elections, you will stand on your ground. This is just a point in they're reserving free seats. So whatever this government, all-time parliamentarians say, these women will just follow. Why waste girls? Why waste women? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have one final question. Yes, young man in front.
Good day, everyone. My question goes to the third speaker of the affirmative team. Okay, in your rebut, you've stated that PNG and USA have same races, and USA does not have a culture. Well, for your information, culture is the way of life. Every country, tribes in this world has a culture. Therefore, how do you say that USA does not have a culture? And both countries have the same race. My question is, what is your definition to the word culture and race?
Thank you. I will help my colleague on that. Number one, we compared America with Papua New Guinea. Why? You call yourselves elites. We are also equal to white men. They are the human race, and so are we. We are not aliens from Mars. We are not aliens from wherever other planets. We are human beings. So in history, let us say this. For example, if you are a Metse student, I am a Metse student standing here, so let us say calculus. How do we learn all those formulas? Is it because of you, in your culture, creating a formula? No, it was Isaac Newton. Okay, and from that we learn new information. In that we correct ourselves. And so we used America, in which their culture, and you saying that we said the human race. It was actually the human race, not the same race. Yes, we are human beings, the same species. So from other nations to their greatness, to their crumbling of their empires, we can use that to correct ourselves as prominent human beings. Does that answer your question? Can you rephrase your question and I'll try.
My question is, I'm asking you to define the word culture. You stated that Americans, they do not have the culture, but we have the same race. And that's my question.
Okay, thank you. Culture. What is culture? Culture is the way we live, the way we act. What is America's culture? Liberalism? Maybe. They pushed for liberalism, for a constitution to separate from the British Empire in 1770. So we look at that and we wonder, what is their culture? They probably date back to, let's say, Great Britain. And then they move away from Great Britain and they establish their own nation in which they adapted to a culture that was foreign, in which they believed that to establish something new would be called their culture. And as for you, my friend, sitting down there, you have a culture. You were born a Papua New Guinean. You were not you did not migrate from any part of the world unless you're an Aborigine. Does that answer your question? You rebut? Then we'll talk about it later. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for question time. We'll have our judges' remarks. I would like to call upon Dr. Solon to give the judges' remarks.
Thank you. I will be sounding like I'm beginning to repeat myself, but I say it with sincerity. I'm convinced that the level of debate continues to improve and the participants continue to come up with very responsive and very reasonable debates. Now, this particular debate that we've just had is a very significant one. It's also a sensitive topic, but I think that generally the presenters took very strong points of view, and they were quite convincing both ways. I mean, it was, for the judges, I believe it was very difficult to decide which was the winning team because it was going up and down. Each speaker came up with a new way, a new idea of presenting, and a position that could be legitimately put forward and carried reasonable arguments to convince us one way or another. So I think we had a hard time trying to decide to the last minute as to which was the leading debating team. So on behalf of the adjudicators, again, I want to commend both sides of the debating teams for their very, very reasonable arguments one way or the other. On the same point, I would want to also continue, because it was exciting and because both sides were strong. The adjudicators had to look for follow-up arguments, okay, and clarity of presentation. If you're going to do that, that will give you the edge. If the opposition is strong, you come up with strong, and the only way you come up with reputable arguments is to say, this is the position, and these are the facts. 1, 2, 3. But when you say 1, 2, 3, stay with 1, 2, 3. We want to hear your first argument towards your point 1. We want to also hear your arguments towards point 2. We want to hear the arguments of facts towards point 3. And then following that, we want to hear examples to point 1, examples to point 2, examples to point 3. And then following that, we want to hear generalization to say, because of that, this is what I want you to think about. This is what I think this country should go. Those are the lines of arguments that we want to encourage our debaters as we move into the conclusions of our sessions or towards next week. It is a very, very high learning experience as I want to share with you. And it's important that we continue to improve, and you are stimulating us to continue to improve. The reasons we are saying this, because we are also being probed to look for better position to assess. And the more you give us the challenge, the more we're getting to refine the issues. Okay, you are all stating the points. Where are the arguments? 1 or 2 arguments are coming up, but maybe the third one is not going through. If the examples are coming up, the examples may be going to one position of the argument and not the other 2. So we'd like you to think about that as you come forward. The other is also your asking questions. The deliberations after the session is just as important, because it also continues to stimulate our minds. Again, we commend both sides and commend you, the participants. We trust that you are learning as we also are on the judging panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Solon. Please put another round of applause for Garu Secondary School and Kwikila Secondary School. I'll ask the participants now to shake hands before they leave the stage. The participants for Garu Secondary School were David Vanuawaru, Alison Geno, Grace Kune, and Samuel Molina. Please thank Garu Secondary School as they leave the stage. The participants of Kwikila Secondary Schools were Joseph Kyle, Russell Navuru, Michael Oake, and Luana Duri. Thank you, Kwikila Secondary School.